Welcome to the game. I'm Russ Cohen. We've got Nikco Riesgo. Nikco, how are you?
Russ Cohen, my man.
And Mike Augello, how are you?
Howdy.
So let's talk about the MLB All-Star Game. I felt it was actually really good, maybe one of the better ones in a long time. Not because the NL won and I root for the NL. I just felt like players were trying harder. And so, Nikco, in the past, I'd always been sort of upset when certain players bowed out and others took their place. But it seemed like in this game, the ones that took the place of some of the other players really wanted to play.
And they wanted to win. That was really, really important. We wanted to see these guys. They really wanted it. And it came down to the very, like I said, the last innings. And what a great game it was.
Yeah, it was an interesting setup at the end. Craig Kimbrell against J Rod, and then Craig Kimbrell just he was getting me a little nervous, but they did pull it out. There were some moments where chanting for Otani, where the home fans were chanting for Otani. Mike, you said you actually watched it. That's a miracle.
Say that again, Russ. I'm sorry.
You said you actually watched this game. That's a miracle.
Yeah, well, it was under peer pressure because there was nothing else sporting wise to watch. I don't like all-star games, but usually baseball is the best one of them. And friends who were in town wanted to watch the game, so I watched it. And I agree with your assessment that it was better than some of the more recent ones. I think that baseball took a big step backwards when they started to associate home field advantage in the World Series with the
Right.
All-Star game, trying to make an absolutely meaningless game meaningful. Is an abomination. And the high point of the week this week was at the Major League Baseball draft when Rob Manfred was repeatedly booed because that is a reflection of how bad his commissionership is. But they actually did a pretty decent job at the All-Star game, and it was at a quick pace. And I think that even though I don't even know if the pitch clock was being implemented, but it was at a quicker
It
pace, and
was.
that made
Yeah.
it more enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Nikco, something about Rob Manfred. You're out in California. The whole Oakland mess is really bad because leaving the door open, like, hey, we could come back to Oakland, and you know, fans of the Expos know better. Like they've been down that road before, where it's like, oh, maybe the Expos will get a team again, and I just find it disingenuous. I felt like there was a deal there for Oakland. They didn't want to do it. They went for a money grab. And I feel like they're losing a good fan base. I do, because I don't think a lot of those fans are going to transfer to Vegas.
They're not. They're going to be without a team, is what it looks like. And it's a sad day for the game, a sad day for the city of Oakland. It seemed like, could not support the team. Like, they probably would have supported the team if they got a new stadium, if they could work
Yes.
out a new stadium. They've got some great fans. It looks like 20 or 30,000 of them showed up to kind of really rally to kind of keep the team
They
in
did.
the
And you know
city.
what the
That was
worst part
exciting to
about that
see.
was? The worst part about that was, even at that point, Rob Manfred doesn't understand that he should not say anything. And he was like, oh, look at all these fans that are showing up. And it's like, yeah, they're showing up in protest. He didn't understand that, I don't think.
No, no, and I think he's just looking for the riches of Vegas. I mean, Vegas is opening the door. They basically, they're a city who wants it. They're willing to share some of the tax revenues. They know there's going to be plenty of tourism, plenty of revenue there for a team to support. Compared to Oakland, is not as much as a tourist attraction there. So they've got a good setup there in Vegas, and I wouldn't blame Oakland at all if they did decide to move the franchise. Just like when you're looking at the Raiders, they made that move, and they didn't lose too many fans. My father is still a Raider fan, no matter if they're in Oakland or they're in Vegas. So I think they're going to keep the A's fans, especially as long as they keep that A's team and the colors, the green and gold. I
I
think
don't
they're
think
going
they're
to be the
gonna. I
fans.
think they're gonna go black, and I think they're gonna lose those team colors.
You think they're going to even change their name, like you're saying,
No.
like the
I
Nationals?
do.
Like, you think the
I do.
Expos went to the Nationals? You think
Yep.
the A's are going to be like the Aces or something?
Yep. I do.
That would be terrible for the game. That would if that happened, if that was the case, that would be $1 billion relocation or entry, brand new entry into the league, $1 billion entry fee. I would say keep the name and a relocation, and then there's no entry fee. That should be the bargain there.
Mike?
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't think about the Aces as opposed to the Athletics. They could keep the name A's and change the name, and obviously Aces with the blackjack and
Mhm.
gambling association. I mean, it's sad because they're talking about a name that has had over 120 years worth of history, going back to the Philadelphia A's, and going through Kansas City into Oakland. I mean, let's be honest here. This will, just like the Raiders uh in Northern California, local government there was not interested in doing anything to keep those teams there. They tried to get tried to get a stadium built in San Jose. They tried to get it built in other places. It wouldn't work. They couldn't get funding for it. And unfortunately, they were left with not too many options. What the ownership of the Oakland A's has done over the last couple years in summarily just tearing down that franchise is a disgrace. And I put that at the feet of Rob Manfred too, because now, even though he is a commissioner and the owners are his bosses, you can't, for the integrity of the sport, you can call an owner on the carpet for doing what the Oakland ownership is doing now, which is completely strip mining that team of any talent whatsoever, and then slowly building it up when they are in Las Vegas. I think it's an atrocity, and it makes me sick.
Yeah, and just to finish up this thought, I mean, I have a cousin who lives there and definitely talks about all the sports. He does think it's going to be a tall order to fill a baseball stadium 80 something 81 games a year. He's not completely sold that it's going to be easy to do that. Even though it may not be a massive stadium, uh he still think that's going to be a battle. So we'll see. We'll see about that. So now the second half of the season coming around, even though they're really way past that uh, game wise, and a lot of surprises here. First one I'll bring up the New York Mets. I thought they could be a playoff team, but I wasn't getting crazy like everybody was as far as like, oh, they're going to be a World Series team, because I knew that there was a chance that the older starters that they had in Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander could blow up in their face, and to some degree that's happened. And Evan Diaz getting hurt, sure, at the beginning of the year that hurt, but that shouldn't have been uh, the reason this happened, and I don't think it is. I think it's the starters not being effective and killing the bullpen essentially. Um, and again, Billy Epler didn't set the best lineup here. He didn't, and his trades have been bad. And I do think Epler and Buck Showalter should be shown the door at the end of the year. But at the end of the day, they're fakely in it because of the way the wild card system is. So okay, there's 7 games out, but there's 5 teams ahead of them, including the San Francisco Giants. So I honestly don't think the Mets will make it. I think the only way the Mets could make it is if they actually traded for Shohei Ohtani, and then it would solve 2 problems: the starting pitcher, an ace, and the DH. But they're not going to be able to do that. So I don't have much hope. I don't know what you guys think.
That's actually a good call. The Mets, if I was where the Mets, that's exactly what I would do. I'd go after Shohei. The Angels are pretty much going to fade. He's up for sale right now. I would think make the phone ring, give him an offer they can't refuse. Give him some prospects. I know there's a young great prospect the Mets have there in AAA. Is it
Yeah, you don't want
Mauricio?
to trade Ronnie
Uh,
Mauricio if you can help it,
yeah.
though. I
No, I
know.
mean, but for Otani, Mauricio all day long.
But
I
you're
mean,
renting
bring
them.
Otani.
You're renting them, Nico. If they could get
Well,
them under contract, it's different.
here's the thing: the Mets have an opportunity to win the World Series now, this year. Okay, it's
No, they
about a
don't.
mentality. You mentioned get rid of Showalter, get rid of Epler, get rid of them now. How about that? Make a dramatic move.
I
Make a
wouldn't be
move
against
now.
it, but they won't do that.
They should. They should. I hope they hear this radio show because they need to. There's an opportunity to win it this year. They've got Verlander. They've got Scherzer. And you know what? That's the best that they've gotten. It could be the best in the league. So they've got the two best if they can get in there, and they can. They've got some players. I love the way Alvarez is playing. Beatty is hurt, but he's going to be there.
No, he's been pretty good.
Lindor is actually having one of his greatest years.
Hmm.
Marte is there every day. Nemo, it comes to play every day. McNeil, obviously. So I just think it's a matter of Showalter and that leadership. I think they need just a more powerful, younger bullet in their holster to go get it this year. They can
Well,
do it.
let,
Call me.
let's let's listen to what we just said here. If they go out and trade for the presumptive American League MVP, who could at this he is on a pace right now to at least get close to what Aaron Judge did last year, then the Mets might have a chance of getting into the playoffs.
Right.
No, that's absolutely asinine to even consider that, because you're going to have to trade a Mauricio or a Francisco Alvarez or one of your top prospects to get him. And we know that he is probably going to stay on the West Coast. He's either going to sign with the Dodgers or the Giants or the Mariners. He's not. He rejected the Yankees a few years ago because he didn't want to play on the East Coast of the U.S. So it's asinine to do that, and that would be the final nail in Billy Epler's coffin. Now, do I think he's got a chance of staying after this year? No, because I think Stephen Cohen is probably pissed off that he's wasted a ton of money on a couple 40-year-old pitchers. I mean, they're not going to sell at the deadline, but you know what? Just play things out. You might have two or three teams that are ahead of you in the wild card race that do trade off players. Like, the Chicago Cubs are probably going to trade Bellinger and Stroman at the deadline. Maybe some of the teams in front of you weaken themselves, and you have a chance to sneak in at the end of the year. But do not go out and trade assets. That would just be doing the same thing over and over, which is just a dumb thing to do.
Well, I did on sportsology.com say that I would trade Parada, who is the Mets' top catching prospect, because now they have Alvarez, and put him in another prospect in a deal for Dylan Cease, who I think the White Sox would trade, because there's 3 years of control on Dylan Cease. He could walk in and be an ace, and it'd be much cheaper than Ohtani, obviously. So I do think if the Mets did that, it could put him in the race, and I think that's the cheaper alternative.
That makes more sense, because it's not just a rental, it's a
Right.
multi-year. And then if you have Cease and Senga, and these guys can be third and fourth starters,
Yeah.
even though they're making $40 million a year, then okay, then you've got yourself a solid rotation. But to go out to trade for somebody who is purely going to be a rental, even if he wins, even if he wins the MVP, it's just all kinds of dumb, and you don't do it.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I'm going to be honest. Even the Phillies, who are a half a game out of that third wild card, with the emergence of Arizona, who I think will be there all year, and I've said that all year in articles on Full Press Baseball, and the same with Miami. They're going to be there. They're not falling out. I think the Phillies are in trouble. I mean, Wheeler's not been the same. Aaron Nola, I don't think they're going to re-sign, and he's been ineffective. Bryce Harper has zero power coming back from the injury, and he really hasn't been able to play the field. I don't know if he's going to play the field. If he does, he's going to be a first baseman. Schwarber's been an issue. Like, this is a team that even 7 games over 500, I don't believe in. And so I'm telling you, I think even they're going to have trouble, because I think San Diego will rise up a little bit. They started to do it against the Mets. I think they're playing the Phillies next. The Dodgers play the Mets next, and that could be that could be a bad way to go for them. So, as far as the way this East is, I could see Miami and Arizona making it, and there just being one other team out of all these teams that we're mentioning that gets the third wild card, because Cincy seems to be for real too. Like, I don't think we could just count on these teams falling out anymore.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, Cincinnati. Go ahead.
Cincinnati is for real. You're right. They're on top of the of that Central for a reason. I mean, these guys are playing hard. They got young players, and they're all coming together. I love their manager, and they come every day, and they bring it in the bottom of the ninth, the bottom of the eighth, late in the game. they're still in it and they're still clawing away. I think they've got more late inning wins than any team.
So now we'll go to the American League for a minute, and the Yankees. They fired their hitting instructor, which is something I wouldn't have minded the Mets doing if they would have fired Showalter or Epler, one of them, to kind of just say, hey, nobody's safe here. But they didn't do that. The Yankees did, the minor thing. They bring in Sean Casey, who I guess grew a mustache because he likes Don Mattingly. That's weird, but okay. I like Sean Casey. I've interviewed him before. Good guy. But Mike, I don't think the Yankees are going anywhere either. I think they'll make the playoffs, but again, they're just devoid of starting pitching.
Well, I mean, they're devoid of starting pitching because your big free agent signing. He pitched his first outing last Friday after missing the first 3 months.
Yeah.
They're getting they got Rodon back. They're getting Cortez back. Now the problem is Severino is a ghost. He's not the same pitcher that there's something still wrong with him. They're probably not getting Frankie Montas back. They have been actually getting some quality starts out of Clark Schmidt, but the rotation is not what it was expected to be when they put it together in the offseason. And obviously, the great equalizer is the fact that Aaron Judge is not there. Yeah, thanks to the concrete flooring at Dodger Stadium. So and the funny thing is, they thought, well, he'll be back before the All-Star break, and now, well, he may be back sometime after the All-Star break. Well, when he comes back,
is it a toe injury? Is that his injury?
Yeah, it's a toe injury, but it's not a broken toe. Apparently, it was some sort of torn ligament in his toe,
which is worse. Like if it's actually broken,
yes.
it's better because then they know it's going to fully heal. Something like that. Yeah, you never know how it's going to go.
And the situation with them is you can't simply just put him at DH because you got that Luddite Giancarlo Stanton who can barely play the outfield. He's your DH most of the time. So, I mean, their problems are multifaceted right now. I mean, the one problem that they haven't had is their bullpen has been fantastic.
Yeah.
The rotation has been decent, and Garrett Cole right now, I think, is either 1 or 2 in the race for the Cy Young in the American League. Their problem is they just simply can't hit, and it's without Judge. You've got that cavernous hole in the middle of your lineup.
It's an embarrassing Yankee lineup for the last couple of weeks, like it is.
Oh yeah, I mean, Stanton,
the Orioles were just destroying them.
Yeah, because the Orioles have a good lineup with Mullins and Rutschman and Hayes, and they have some good players right now. Josh Donaldson is, basically, he's robbing money without a gun. He's hitting I think he's hitting around 140 right now. Stanton is hitting below the Mendoza line. Anthony Rizzo has been hitting sub 200 since Judge got hurt. The only guys who've been productive when he's healthy has been Harrison Bader. Volpe has been decent after struggling the first couple months. And that's Gleyber Torres is not an automatic out, but that's about it. And it's sad that there's such a one-dimensional offense without Judge, but that's the reality.
Yeah, and actually, and just to highlight how good the Orioles are, they've been doing this for like a month without Ryan Mountcastle, who I still think is their best player, and he's been out.
Yeah, I think Rutschman's their best player, but good point.
Yeah, so this is, Nico, the American League East, excuse me, is tough, and you know what? Even the Red Sox are sort of fakely in it.
Yeah, and they're the last place team in that league there, and they're over 500. And like everybody is right there, playing 500 ball. And when you look at the Red Sox, they could be the leader in the Central Division. They could be the leader in some of the other divisions, maybe not the East, but are where they're at. But yeah, it's a toss up. Yeah, they could make a run the second half. I don't think anyone's really going to overcome the Rays. The Yankees. I was really impressed to see Domingo Germán with the perfect game. That was to see him do that on the road. That team came together, and it does show some hope that they've got some hope for the playoffs if they can get something out of him. So you throw that magic in the playoffs.
but he did it against a AAA Oakland team. So I mean, I'm not taking anything away. I couldn't throw a perfect game, and he deserves credit for it. But it's almost like if he had done it against any other team other than Oakland or Kansas City, I'd give him more credit. But it was Oakland, so I don't give him as much credit as I would give Tom Browning or Mike Witt or any other guy who pitched a perfect game back in the day.
Yeah, no,
Mike,
it was good to see, and like I said, it definitely could give them some momentum in the playoffs. So they're going to need it.
was there anybody in the world that you could say could pitch any game, Mike, let alone a perfect game? Like that's my big
Well,
question.
oh, I mean, I used to be a crafty lefty, but not anymore.
Yeah, it's been a few years. Okay. So, but what else, Mike? What do you think about the AL East? I mean, the Yankees are definitely not the class of it.
No, I mean Tampa Bay has had a fantastic season. I mean McClanahan is probably him and Cole are battling for the Cy Young. I mean they've been able to get consistent offense, guys like Yandy Diaz and Ramirez and Wander Franco. So they and Randy Arozarena. They've been able to their pitching has. I don't think it's been as good as the Yankees. At least their bullpen hasn't, but their offense has been consistent. So they got out to that ridiculous start and they've struggled a little bit over the last month or so, but they built up such a great lead. I think they're up by 7 or 7.5 games. So, they're sort of they're where the Yankees were last year. They had that remarkable first half, and even if they struggle for a month, they built up such a lead that they can coast. So that's where they are right now.
Okay, and then Nico, what do you feel about the AL West?
I got the Houston Astros all the way. I think they're in a great little position where everybody forgot about them. They're the
Who
world
forgot
champions.
about them?
You
Nobody
know,
forgot about them.
the thing is, you would think the world champions are going to come out and just win every game and be like the Tampa Rays, be that leader, that leading team out in front of the gate there. But they're not. They're not. They're like in a nice little place where, hey, you can forget about them because when they come to town, they're the champs, and you don't necessarily have to play as hard as everybody has been playing against them. Because, like I said, it's hard to to um, to fake that you're the champions. Basically, everybody knows you're the champions, and they're playing them hard. Everybody wants to beat the Astros, and for everybody wanting to beat them and playing them as hard as they possibly can, the Astros are still right there, showing everybody they're going to be in the playoffs again, and you're going to have to go through them to win it.
Nico, nobody forgot about them. Everybody hates them. That's why they remember them. I mean, clearly from the first half of the season, the best team in that division, and if you look at the All-Star game, has been the Texas Rangers with what 5 starters in the All-Star game. I mean, Simeon's having a fantastic year. Seager's having possibly an MVP. If it wasn't for Otani, is that possibly having an MVP year? Young, the third baseman, Jonah Heim, the catcher. I mean, they're Adolis Garcia. They're a really good team. Now the Grom injury hurts them a lot, but
They're
they've
still
they
really
had
good. I mean,
they're
Dane
still really
Dunning
good,
has really picked it up, and I like him a lot. So,
and
and the
they strengthened their
Rangers are
and
tough.
they strengthened their bullpen with the addition of Chapman. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that the Astros will make the playoffs, but in terms of them being the favorite, in terms of them being the reigning World Series champion, I think that means nothing.
Yeah, and I don't think much is going to happen with the AL Central. Like all those teams just stink. They're not good.
Well, I mean, Cleveland is the one that has enough pitching to win, potentially win that division and give somebody a scare like they did
Sure.
in the play. When you have Bieber and BB and they have enough starting pitching that in a low scoring playoff scenario they could have some cause some problems. But I mean, I don't think Detroit is terrible. Kansas City is terrible. The White Sox are extremely disappointing. Minnesota, I mean, there's some good players there, but consistency has been an issue with them. So I mean, yeah, one team is coming out of the Central, and then probably, the obviously the division winners in the other two divisions, and I would say probably all three of the wild card teams are coming out of the AL East.
Yeah, it does seem that way, and it does seem like Kansas City or Oakland could beat the 62 Mets record for losses, which I think is like 120.
Yeah, it's 40 and 122, or 40 and
122.
120. 40
You
and
know,
120. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, it's just unbelievable how bad these teams are. And when I was on the West Coast in Vegas for the Stanley Cup, I was watching Oakland, and they are just pathetic. They have a couple of good hitters, but they're pathetic. Now, moving back to the NL, uh, the Central is pretty good. Cincy's the class of it. Milwaukee's always sort of fakely in it, but they just, because they refuse to spend money, they just never get over the hump. So I don't know if there's any risk of any of those teams. Pittsburgh fell back to the pack, but again, the NL West is strong. I mean, you got the Dodgers, Arizona, San Fran's bounce back, and I still think San Diego could get in it. So that's, again, this is the problem for like the NL East teams in the wild card, Nico, is that the West could start bumping them off if those teams get hot.
That's right. You could have, like I said, the 3 wild card teams come from the West. I mean, they're all
You
good.
could.
When you look at the Dodgers, you're looking at the Diamondbacks now. You're looking at the Padres, the Giants. Um, any one of
And
those teams
let's
could
face
take
it,
it.
Nico, that's what you want to happen. You want those NL West teams in there. You don't want the Mets in there. You don't want any teams. You don't like any of the teams from the East. That's a reality.
You know what? I would love to see the Mets in there, but the thing is,
East
they
team.
just don't got what it takes. You know, I
Yeah.
would say Miami more than anything is that surprise of that East, and
Yeah.
could actually overcome the Braves with when you look at the talent they've got. A rise, what a special player that they've got. He
You
brings it
think he
every
hits
day.
400? Because I think he might.
He might, because he's getting 4 hits, 5 hits, 3 hits. I mean, 2 hits. He's getting a hit a day. The guy's a special, special player. And then when you surround that with the pitching staff that they got, and then some of the other special players like De La Cruz and Sanchez and Wendell, and they've got a great little ball club. Like I said, they deserve. They're going to be in the playoffs, but they could actually win that division.
Well,
So,
that's what
Mike,
happens. That's what
okay.
happens when you're built by Derek Jeter. But anyway,
Okay. Um, it really isn't him. But anyhow, going back to Arias, so he goes into the break, he's hitting 383, which considering a year ago nobody was hitting like 320, is amazing. But of course, some of the rules with the shift and other things have helped us. We know that. But it's okay. I think it balanced the game out again. But here's the 10 highest batting averages since 1941. Gwynn hit 394, Brett 390, Ted Williams 388, Rod Carew 388. I don't even want to go any further because I think that's enough. I think he's in this category. I think he is going to be in the top 4. I remember Carew's, Brett's, and Gwynn's years vividly. Gwynn's the best hitter of all of them. No offense to any of these guys. Ted Williams, probably better overall because of the power, but Gwynn's the best hitter I ever saw. And so I don't know, 394. I think he's got a chance at it. I don't know what you guys feel.
I think that he's. I mean, he was around 400 for about a month,
Yeah.
and then it took a little bit of a turn. I mean, 383 is still fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, but it will take a remarkable feat for him to be able to. I think the one thing that is sort of against him in terms of his opportunity to hit 400 is he doesn't walk a lot. And I know because I have
Right.
him. I have him in a couple baseball leagues, and he doesn't walk a ton. His on base percentage, I think, is in the 430s, and he's hitting 383. So he's
I
not
mean, you could
walking
say
a ton.
Stratomatic, Mike. Keith Hernandez still plays Stratomatic. It's okay.
Well, yeah, I have him in a fantasy league too. So I was just didn't want to
Hey, what
make myself.
fantasy league? Not the one I share with you.
No, that well, yeah, no,
That team sucks.
one that I'm actually not in last place.
Yeah. How come you're good in the other team, but for this one you suck?
I'm carrying a lot of dead weight. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
But no, I mean, if he was somebody who walked more, and I think Brett had pretty decent on base and got a lot of
Yeah.
walks. That obviously that takes that helps you. You don't have to get as many hits if you're walking more. Gwynn was not a guy who walked. Williams was. So I think if somebody eventually does hit 400, it's going to be somebody who walks a ton. And honestly, I think the best hitter I've ever seen was Boggs.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, he
Gwynn,
was amazing.
yeah. But
Could
Gwynn
ride a
was up.
horse. I didn't like
No.
the way he rode the horse after the World Series win, but whatever.
No, you just didn't like who won the World Series when he rode a horse. That's what it was.
Was he better with the Red Sox or the Yankees?
Oh, the Red Sox. It's not
Oh,
even.
Red Sox. No,
All
not even
right.
a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly not the Tampa Bay.
No, not Tampa Bay.
No, that was bad. But all right, Nico, did we miss anything?
Yes, today's show brought to you by Oxynova, oxygen hyperbaric chambers.
All right. That's it for the game. We'll catch everybody next time.
My man.